shouldn't beat ourselves up too much here in the European Union. If you compare the political system of the European Union and its ability to make decisions, and the political system of the United States and its ability to make decisions, the European Union system is considerably better. We've been able to do far more things in face of the current crisis than the US has done. The United States has not been able to make decisions in regard to Social Security reform, has not been able to make decisions on the reform of Medicare and Medicaid, has not been able to make decisions on the debt and deficit situation. And there's an awful lot of rhetoric in the United States and relatively little legislation coming out at the far end of the pipeline. Whereas here in Europe, in our own rather muddled and confusing way and with lots of recrimination, we're actually getting there over a whole range of issues. The other thing I'd like to add is, and I agree very much with those who've said, we should devote our attention to the new technologies and try to agree standards on the new technologies rather than trying to solve the poultry question. I say that because there is a profoundly different philosophical attitude in the United States, in my observation, to technology than the one that there is in Europe. The United States basically is optimistic about technology. It believes there is a technological fix for things. It doesn't fear technology. We, on the other hand, as Europeans, and it's common to all of us, from the British to the Italians to the Spaniards to the Irish, we are suspicious of new technologies. We're suspicious of Big Brother. We're suspicious of Frankenstein crops. We're suspicious of all these various things. It's probably deep in our history, because we Europeans have had two major wars fought over our territory in the last century. And this, I think, has made us sort of fearful of big powers of all kinds. Whereas the United States hasn't had a war fought on its territory since 1865, and they have a much more sunny view of the world than we do. That's why I think we need to get together with them at a very profound philosophical level, where you're beginning to think about what might be the regulation rather than what exactly will be the regulation, so that we can try and iron out some of these philosophical or psychological or psychiatric differences that there may exist between us, so that we at least start from the same position.
I fully agree with your point. I believe what is going to make the difference is the new generation of kids today, the kids and the teenagers, which are digital natives, which for them technology is part of their DNA. And maybe, I hope, this will help cope with some of the maybe negative outlook from Europe towards technology.
This investment of digital infrastructure, which the United States is now thinking about, how you have universal access for mobile and broadband across the states, this for me has to be a major objective in the European Union, so as to make sure we can make a real progress. It's ICT with SMEs and not just the small businesses themselves. That's a shared thing, and so what that means across the Atlantic is having a common approach to cloud computing, as you said, Thomas. But it's pretty clear we're moving towards slightly different laws in the European Union on data privacy, data protection, and where the impetus is coming at the top of the European Commission now is saying, well, can't we emerge some kind of common approach on digital legislation with the United States, so that then will make a big difference to the companies operating in the transatlantic space. The second one, which is linked to it, is financial services, where very clearly there's a very strong common agenda after all the things that happened in 2008, but some of these rather technical regulations now coming in the European Union might be quite close on derivatives, but might be further away on some other issues. We've got to have some leadership from the top. That means from the top, the President of the US, and from the leadership in the European Union, to make sure it's a real priority. The last one, to me, is this question of deficit and debt, because I think it's going to govern the whole of the relationship in the next 10 to 15 years. You're going to have to get your debt problems under control, and that's something where I think we can share the kind of common approach to make sure we have a real grip on the debt problems on both sides of the Atlantic. So these three issues are ones which I think we should take into account when we move towards the end of this year, when we will have a report from this high-level working group for the new US President and for the EU leadership to make a real difference in what is transatlantic leadership.